Welcome, everyone. It is 3:35, so I'd like to officially call the meeting to order for the Racial Justice and Equality Commission. And our first order of business was to have a presentation on the Housing and Gentrification Subcommittee. That really seems that Mr. Sexton is not here, so we'll just keep being in contact. Ms. Brown, is that okay, being in contact with him to see when he's next available and whomever's next available? So in his absence, we'll just continue on with the agenda. The next item being questions that are related to the February 28th update that was provided to us by Ms. Brown. Everyone got a copy, right? All right. So anyone like to start, other than myself, have any questions related to the updates? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, put your mic on.
Yeah, I would like just to know, since Mr. Saxton's not here, how the program is going with the Housing Advocate and Community Development for the low income, for remediation and to help them address their housing violations. That's been a problem in the past, so I'm glad to see that they have a new code enforcement assistant program, because a lot of the homeowners back in the 70s, which I'm old, a lot of friends and acquaintances, they actually lost their homes because of the code enforcement violations, because they were not giving all the information that they needed to secure their homes. It was little things going on with the code enforcement, but I'm glad that they're having this program to assist people to get help to get their homes fixed up where they won't lose them. But since he's not here, I just wanted to know if that program, how that's going, because that's really a crucial part of the housing program. Thank you.
As an update to your question, Charlie Lanter was assigned or appointed as the Commissioner of the Housing Advocacy and Community Development Program. So that is overseen out of his office. I think it would be a good idea to have him speak about where we are with our partnership with Community Action and Legal Aid to do some eviction prevention, since we have funding for that through some federal programs and state programs.
Ms. Scully, would you?
Am I on? Good, okay. I had a question along the same lines about that program. I'm just curious about how the funding is being used, not just for the initial support, but the ongoing of families being able to reestablish themselves. So I wanted to get more information about that. And then I also had a question about the different things that are listed within the update, if there has been an established timeline regarding the funding.
Those are questions that I think we should get from Mr. Lanter.
Okay. All right, I have a question. I wrote down, made some notes. As far as the economic opportunity, when it's referenced, what is a minority business incubator? What does that mean?
It is helping to develop a minority, black-owned, woman-owned, disabled business owner to scale up their business. You want me to drill down a little bit more?
I still don't get it. Am I missing something?
If I may
I
ask,
just-
You want me to try?
Please, I've just never heard that term before.
Yes, so specifically focusing on members of the community from historically marginalized populations who might have a business idea but don't know how to create a business plan or set up a pitch deck or seek appropriate funding from a bank or investor. An incubator brings together resources and a
Okay, I
community
get-
of practice.
Okay, I understand obviously the term incubator now, since you said it that way,
Yes.
putting it all together, okay. I guess I could have thought long and hard about that, but I didn't, I'm sorry. The next one is related to the number 5 under education, where it said that the mayor has guaranteed, or whatever the language is, specifically the number 5, $100,000 earmarked. Is it specifically earmarked for that summer youth job training program, do you know?
You said under education,
Education, number 5. Where it was creating meaningful after-school opportunities, and the Lexington Fayette County government partners with Fayette County Public Schools to run extended school programs. And in addition, the mayor has proposed increasing the summer youth employment program by an additional $100,000 for the next 2 years. And I just was wondering if it's going to be specific to the summer youth job training program.
I will need to get some clarification on that. I know there are summer youth program fundings through Partners for Youth, and then there is also summer youth employment that we have partnered with Fayette County Public Schools to do. So there's a couple of different programs that we can report on funding, and I'm sure we're going to reach over this $100,000 mark.
Because the partnership with Fayette County, I think it would be there are commingled funds from the city and from Fayette County.
Yes.
That was the reason why I was asking. I didn't know if it was a standalone program or if it was the program that's in partnership with Fayette County.
So there are, I want to say off the top of my head, there are about 3 different programs for summer youth employment.
Oh, okay.
In that breakdown of that cost, is it possible to have what the 100,000, what does that mean? How many students does that serve? For how long, that type of information? Thank you.
Okay, and then under the racial equity, where is it? Let me get to it. The racial equity. Number 3, recommendation number 3. Can you provide, give a more specific update? Who oversees this effort? For the Charles Young Center to partner with the community organizations, for the city is using this space at Charles Young Center. Is it already been implemented, and who?
It has been piloted. It was piloted in June of last year through Work Lexington, which is in our development office, which is out of our development office. There are several partners who are working with us at the Charles Young Center, such as Jubilee Jobs, Kentucky Career Center. I know United Way was there at one point. And there are several agency partners that are there.
So the current status of it is it still in pilot form? Or
It is still in pilot form. There are some recommendations that I am making to that, to Work Lexington and the director, Elodie Dickinson, on how to beef up that program.
And does that include a more aggressive advertising of what services are available?
Absolutely. We're looking at signage, which has to come through the Charles Young Board, which also has to go through the Department for Social Services and Department for General Services, and developing some type of resource or phone number, website, where individuals can get more information about what's going on at Charles Young, to schedule an appointment with one of the agency partners and who to get in contact with.
Okay. How about the recommendation, still under racial equity, number 4? Who oversees this initiative? Is this already in implementation? Or is it just still a proposal?
This is still in, I believe this is also in reference to, we're looking at the education one. So this, I think these are overlapping implementations, but there's also some implementation around summer youth job training, employment, and mentorship opportunities through other departments like Partners for Youth, One Lexington. And so I will get, when I report back out next month, I will have all of those for you.
Okay. And finally, for me, under racial equity, number 13, well, you have number 13, but in the report, it stopped at 4. It did not include number 13.
It might be, I'd have to have my binder up here, my Bible.
Okay.
But that is, if you're wanting to ask about that one, are you wanting?
No, that was all.
Okay.
I understood what it meant. I went back to look to see if I'd overlooked it in this.
Can we get a follow-up maybe to that particular bullet? Right, if the survey was sent out November 5th of last year, and what happened to the collected data? What did that say? What came of that
Where are we
collected
right
data?
now
What were
with-
the next steps?
Sure. We have now received a draft of a final report. All of our staff is going through the diversity workshops now. They should be completed by April the 20th. I believe that's the last day for workshops.
Oh, okay.
So there's still some decisions that have to be made about how to publish the report. But that's.
So the surveys are complete.
The surveys are completed.
Now it's the action as a result of the survey?
The action as a result of the survey is we'll have a report from what that data showed. Then we'll also have, all staff will be completing a diversity workshop.
That was all that I had in relation to the updates. Anybody?
I have a few questions. So a lot of these are some great recommendations. Do we have a timeline on them? And if they're put in place or not put in place, will we get an explanation for why not? And do these recommendations have teeth, in a sense? If they're not implemented and it's not followed through, because Mayor Gordon's name is all through here, what happens if she's not in office any longer? Does this keep breathing? Does this keep going on? Is this pertain to while she's in office?
So the one good thing about this commission is that it's by ordinance. So unless there's somebody that comes in and wants to get rid of this commission would stand. As far as the recommendations go, there are some recommendations in their report that don't fall under city government purview. So it's up to us to develop partnerships with agencies or other, if it's the school system or other private or other nonprofits that can carry out some of these recommendations that we can be a partner with. And then there are some that I have kind of categorized as short-term, long-term, medium-term goals or implementations. So yes, you are absolutely correct. There could be another mayor that comes in and says, we don't want to do this. But hopefully, now that we have the work started and the commission is in place, that there's some buy-in politically to anyone who comes after this office in order to sustain this work.
But wouldn't that would take more than just the new mayor saying no? Wouldn't it take, that would require action from the council, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Sir.
Ms. Brown, a question on page 23, recommendation number 1, increased spending for minority business enterprise. My question there is, that is something that is talking about the language of LFUCG being able to start tracking information data on the equity spend. Have we started doing that? To me, that's just making a decision to do it, right? So we don't have to go and engage anybody else or anything like that. So my question is, has the city made a determination to start tracking supplier diversity, and at what level? And then just as a follow-up to Councilmember Adair, as far as the recommendations, have there been any that the city council and the mayor have gone through and said, well, we're absolutely not doing those? Have they stricken any of these out? Obviously, they've made some determination based on the progress report to follow up with some of them.
So to your first point, or your first question about the minority business spend. So at this time, we are currently still going through the minority business disparity study. So that will determine how we engage with minority businesses in the future. So that will be completed. We're looking at May for that to be complete. That falls under our Sharita Miller, who has been working very closely on that through our purchasing and procurement department. So once we have that information, we're able to increase our spending. To your second question, I believe that was about the wanting to know about recommendations that we've totally stricken down. So one of the recommendations that we absolutely could not do was to create a civilian review board because of there's state precedent against creating a police civilian review board. So instead, recommendation number 2, I believe, on law enforcement was implemented. And we are in the process of appointing 2 individuals, 2 civilians, to the police disciplinary review board.
I'd like to follow up on that. So recommendation 1 is stricken, but number 2 is being implemented as we speak?
Let's see. So I'm sorry, recommendation number 2 was stricken. Recommendation number 1 is being implemented. I get those 2 confused.
And so it's being implemented. There is a board already appointed, or there's
a police disciplinary review board.
And 3 of those members are citizens that are not?
2 of the members will be appointed as citizens. 1 will be an alternate.
Okay.
I have a request. Hearing that you have a list of short-term, medium, and long-range thoughts of your own, I think we would love to see that.
Ms. Brown, I have a follow-up question to the information about the youth programming. The $100,000, that's $100,000, that's the same money between those 2 recommendations?
Yes, that's what I'm going to say initially, but there are other funds through
Okay.
other mechanisms.
So a couple of things of concern and for consideration. In looking over the full scope of this and the things that were allocated funding, $100,000 allocated toward youth and education seems really low. And then in addition to that, looking at the center and the youth services that are put in place, is there some type of measurement or evaluation procedures to see that they're effective and that we're actually serving youth? And then I'm also curious, going back to the funding side of it, if we did comparison in percentage, I just think there's more that can be done to invest in our youth that's more preventive, to keep us from having to have some of the conversations on the reactive side. And I would love to see the timeline, and then also, I get nervous when I see a lot of money going out first and that low amount for youth. Will it get to a point that you get through the recommendations and then we get to the youth part and then there's no funding left? Like, is that something that could happen?
So most of this funding is in our, comes through like social services or general fund. I can't really speak on what's going to be approved by council, but I will say that there has been requests for additional funding for youth programs.
Okay.
That maybe next month I'll be able to discuss.
Just want to go on record, the 100,000 between two recommendations compared to millions in other areas just doesn't seem right, given our current focus on what's needed for our youth.
Yeah.
And then again, the evaluation of services to make sure that they're effective.
Okay.
Ms. Brown, will you be able to, you'll confirm whether or not it is the same 100,000? Because when you look
I
at
will
the two,
confirm.
when you look at both recommendations, the language is similar, but it does differ. One talks about summer youth and apprenticeships, and the other one just talks about summer youth. So it could be two separate pots, but even with that being said, I agree with my fellow commission member, that's still not a lot of money, even if it was for two separate youth-focused initiatives.
I will confirm and have that information for you all next meeting.
Question. So in recommendations, they're asking, for information for data. And it says, be analyzed, report will be given. Are you the person that's going to review those reports? Or we review those reports? Where are those going to, where they're going to be housed at? And who gets to, in a sense, who's going to say they're not good enough? Or we need more? Or, if you follow what I'm saying?
Are you talking about the diversity employee survey, like that report?
Those and under the
Minority
racial,
business.
the police, when they provide analysis and reports, who's reviewing that? The MBE, who's reviewing that? Who gets this data that's been recommended that should be tracked? And then who, basically, who's that going to?
So I believe that any of these reports will be public record.
Okay.
So they will be able to be accessed by the public. So it's just now determining is it going to be like an executive summary, or is it going to be a full report?
Ms. Brown, so just piggybacking, I think what we're trying to ascertain is, so the information is being collected, is going to be compiled. Who's overseeing that who gets to put eyes on it to make sure that the data is correct or not corrupted? I think that's what he's trying to get. So I understand it will be put on for public display, which is great. But in the initial collecting and filing of those reports and collecting that data, what department, what entity, what people are overseeing that?
So all of these studies are done by outside vendors. So it's so that there's there's integrity in the process.
Right.
If that's your question or concern. Yeah, they're done by outside vendors. And the minority business disparity study is being done. I want to say there's probably four entities that are working on that study. And Millennial Concepts, some of you are familiar with Dr. Roger Cleveland, who's been working on our employee diversity survey, compiling that data and reporting it out to us. We don't have a say on what the data says. We receive the report that they give us, but we don't have we can't go back in and say, take this out, or no.
If I
Those
can,
have already been completed as well.
what I hear in the questions is, who is it being presented to? So we understand who is compiling it, but there's analysis that then would be reported out to whom? To the city council, or who is hearing those reports?
So, city council will be hearing the reports, the mayor's office will be hearing the reports. Depending on what report it is, human resources, the diversity and inclusion officer, which is out of the chief administrative officer's department. So there are several internal entities that these reports will be given to.
But if these reports, when they are completed, and they address the recommendations that are included in here, how will we specifically be made aware of
We
the
can,
data? Because I think we need to be. We have to request?
we can request it that
Different than what I'm used to.
the entities who have,
So can we just make that request right now of you, and when they come, you just know to get them for us?
sure.
Is
Yeah.
that too burdensome for you? Seriously, I mean,
No,
seriously.
that's fine.
Thank you.
The reason
Thank you, ma'am.
I asked about the data, of course, data drives decisions, right? That's what we all be told, is that seeing growth. If the end of the day, if all these recommendations are made, right, then we're supposed to have a more racial, just community and equity community, right? And so to keep track of that, I think the data is going to help us decide, are we moving in the right direction? Are these recommendations just for show? Do they need to be changed, addressed? But we want to see growth. I think we all want to see growth. And that data is going to be very important and presented to us as it comes. And I think we also want to be able to review and reply and give our 2 cents on a public forum. And so just to have this information and know it's being collected is not enough. And you're doing a great job. I know you're in the hot seat over there, so
You're fine.
I think we're all trying to figure out where we're at, and nothing is personal towards you. We're just trying to figure it out. So
No.
thank you for your reply so far. You're doing a great job.
Oh, no, I hope we have not made it. No, I wasn't just asking questions. I hope that was all. I would like to go back to a point Ms. Scully made earlier, because I'm sitting here thinking, I do think in terms of the entire budget, that dollar amount that's dedicated or supposed to be proposed to mentoring programs, summer job programs, I do think if it's going to be effective, that's pittance, basically. But if there is an adequate funding source, and we don't just throw money at problems, I think, because that doesn't solve things, but so I'm thinking if there is a summer youth program that is to be established, it needs to be an effective one. And I'm thinking, is there such a program that's already, we like to study everything. And I don't mean for us to reinvent the wheel, but is there a program that has been proven to be effective? Because, summer programs in the past used to be open up the gym, throw out balls, and we close at 4, or that doesn't work. So we need to guarantee that in addition, if we are committed to that, it needs to be an effective and efficient program to serve as many young people as possible. And I think it needs to be, it needs to be specific to the age groups too. And because I think middle school right now, if we look into things, middle school kids are the other ones who are struggling. They are the ones who are most recruited for irresponsible activities and so forth. So we need to be, I think we need to make a very strong commitment to the educational piece of this thing.
Not sure if it's appropriate for me to ask a question, but how do we measure its effectiveness? Or what are there certain things that you all are looking for that would help to measure the effectiveness of a youth program?
Well, I think number one, involvement, and its involvement based on, and then you have to qualify involvement.
Youth.
What do you say?
Youth, I think a lot of times we fail to uplift youth voices by not involving them in the process. One way to gauge the effectiveness of some of the youth programs is to actually put together, quality and quantifying, surveys or data that gets responses from the particular youth. So I think that's one thing that's very important, because if they don't think it's good for them or effective, then why are we doing that? So I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah.
No, but I was going to say that at some point, at the implementation of it, we need to ask them what they would like to do. Because it bothers me. School will be out soon, and when you just see during the course of the day kids walking around aimless, and I drive by what I'm thinking, oh, I hope they don't get in troubles, because and then they don't have to be doing anything to get in trouble because they get accosted. But I think you involve young people to see, to see what interests them, because they have such broad interest from STEM type activities, and that's why this thing needs to partner with the school system as much as possible, because they have resources. I'm sure that if there's an effective program that they would like, because it's only that they would be willing to allow us to use, or whomever's running the program, because if you are uplifting young people, it only helps the school system, because they continue on with that work in the classroom. And it doesn't just need to be summer. It starts with summer, but then it becomes ongoing.
I agree with all those things. I definitely agree starting off with youth voice and getting that input to find out what needs are. But there's different things that you can ask, whether we're looking at academics or we're looking at, if students feel like they feel safe, if they feel like they have hope, if they feel as if they feel supported. Like, there's different things you can do pre, mid, and post, and not necessarily a survey, but a way to engage. I think about some of the work my colleague does in talking to young men he works with, in just that qualitative piece of having discussions and being able to gauge how those discussions change throughout time with them. So I think it really depends on what the goal is, and then being able to measure effectiveness based on that. And there are a lot of programs that exist that are city-based, that are school-based, that are collaborative, right, that once the city determines like that's the direction, to Mr. Adair's point, put some teeth behind it, you're able to really identify, pull more information, and make decisions.
If I might.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I might suggest that since the Summer Youth Employment Program already exists, that we might find out a little bit about what their goals are and how they plan to use the funds. Because it is an increase of $100,000, so we don't know what they were working with to begin and what limitations they see in the families that they're working with, what gaps they see that they'd like to see addressed.
That was my question about what the $100,000 would do, because the program is an excellent program we're participating in as well, but they cap out between 200 and 300 youth. And you think about how many youth we have within our city, there's different approaches that we could be taking to reach more where they are. And so I agree, I'd be curious to go back to that evaluative piece to learn more about what we're doing, how it's working, before we pile things on top of it. But also being mindful when we allot funding, that funding goes to how many youth, and how many youth do we have in our city, and putting that into perspective in supporting the programs that are effectively supporting youth.
I have a general question. So last month at our first meeting, we asked that since we're a new commission, we wanted to speak to some of the committee chairs, and, today it was unfortunate that Mr. Sexton couldn't join us. I just wondered, how's that outreach been going? You've reached out to some of the chairs. Are folks generally available? Are they sort of interested and excited to come talk to us? Is there any pushback?
I think this first one may be a tough one, just because of the timing around spring break and.
Sure.
So, but I'll continue to reach out to the chairs. I've been working with one of them really extensively on the expungement clinic, and so maybe having her devote a couple of hours to come in and present, or not a couple of hours, but some time.
Okay.
You just brought up a great, the expungement clinic, great idea. I'm glad it's happening. Can we get a report on how that went, how many people actually signed up for it, and possibly even someone to come here and talk to us about them going through that process and what it did for them?
Sure.
This is a public forum, and I would love to hear more about removing that barrier that has kept so many people out of being productive citizens.
Absolutely. One of the things when we do our press conference on the 15th is looking for a success story and having that person speak to how getting that barrier removed helped them, whether it was workforce, housing, education, whatever the barrier was. But I don't mind to report. Now I will tell you, we'll probably have to cap it at 150 participants that we can actually fund, just because there's still some issues with the Kentucky court system and with the fees, and so you're looking at $600 to get an expungement, which is a huge financial barrier for the individual, but not just them. It's a barrier for even legal professionals to volunteer their time to do this work for them.
Ms. Brown, Abdul Muhammad again. Under economic opportunities, page 27 of the report, it talks about the commission having a comprehensive minority development listing of minority businesses, trying to do one annually or possibly biannually. I was just wondering if the city had taken any action on trying to do that. I know it talked about doing them for paper as well, for people can swing by and pick them up, but either that and or online. Just wondering about that. And then also on the progress report, is that report put together monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, and who is it distributed to? Outside of us, we have a copy of it, but thank you.
So I've tried to follow the precedent of Lisa Higgins Ward and submit a progress report semi-annually. It is released to all the media outlets, as well as it's published on our website. Unfortunately, because it can be a very comprehensive document, we don't get much traction on it.
Okay.
What about the
business listing?
Yeah.
So that's one of the goals after the disparity study. Reason being is right now, or prior to the disparity study, we could only track who had registered with the city. And so there are some other outreach mechanisms that are happening through other entities with this study that's going to get our numbers, to increase our numbers of minority business spend, and so that so there's some buy-in to even be part of a minority business listing that the city publishes.
I had a question along those lines. it's a lengthy and expensive process to become an official minority-owned business. Are there folks that have not gone, must you be officially registered to be a part of a listing like that? And has there been discussion about that?
There has been discussion about it, because there's also a registration fee to register as a vendor with the city. So how do we remove that economic barrier for historically marginalized communities?
What, do you know how much that is? Is it a percentage of like revenue, or is it just a fixed dollar amount?
Fixed dollar amount.
Okay. And it's substantial, or are we talking about a couple $100s, or are we talking about several thousand?
Couple $100.
And that's just to register? Just, and
But there's other financial implications when you register with a local municipality as far as taxation.
okay.
So
That was my next question,
Yeah.
so, all right.
And so it would be interesting to know what is that initial $200 for? Because we all know a lot of processing fees are just a revenue generating source that really are not attached to anything. So I'm just wondering, I'm not saying it's not, I don't know. I just wonder what would be the purpose of that?
I think that it would be beneficial for, once the minority business disparity study is completed, for that team to present to this commission.
Yes, under the economic opportunity recommendation number 4, it said we piloted the Lexington Workforce Resource Center. What I'm confused, John, I have not heard of this. I'm pretty around the city a lot, and I did not know that it was located at Charles Young Center. Has the city advertised this, or I haven't seen anything that says that they're located at Charles Young Center and they offer on-site assistance, job applications, job connections. I haven't seen any of this. I had a young man yesterday that said he was scared to apply for a job because everything is online, and he needed help with applying for, filling out an application. And I get that all the time, even from adults. They say, well, I need some help. And I had no idea that this was at Charles Young Center. So has the city done anything to, say, advertise it on the city buses or billboards or anything? Because I could have directed a lot of people there. It said it was implemented in July, and I haven't heard of this. So I was just wondering, is there any money or something they can kind of advertise this? Because with summer coming now, and a lot of the youth may not know how to fill out an application, or, or even adults. Everything is online pretty much now. And job connections, or do other agencies know that they can refer people to Charles Young Center to get help with, applications, job placements and programs and referral programs? Because I myself did not know this program existed at Charles Young Center. So I think it might be a good idea if the city would advertise it or let people know, because it's a good program to go there. I think the other one used to be on Industry Road, the Resource Center. But now it's at Charles Young Center. It's more in the inner city where people may be able to get to it. But they may not have the knowledge of that. I didn't know it was there either. So maybe, just my suggestion.
No, it's a very good point. That's one of the things that I feel like we can do better on as far as marketing what's going on at Charles Young. And that there are several conversations about how to do that. Number one, there's no signage out there that lets anybody know even when you're driving by. So that's something that I have been looking into personally, or as part of my job, to make sure that folks know what's going on at Charles Young. There was a little PSA type of recording video that was done. It was published on the city's website, but again, how does that reach the people who need it?
Right.
That was to my point earlier when I was saying, how is this being advertised? How do people know what's there?
Can I follow up on that related to the expungement piece? Because so I had Miranda pull it up so I could see the advertisement, but it also has a link where people have to register to attend and pay a $50 fee. Like, there's a lot of barriers in that process alone.
The $50, not a $50 fee on our website.
Whatever this graphic was looked like there was a fee to it, but,
That might be the Goodwill Expungement Clinic. That isn't.
okay.
That wouldn't be mine.
So those are two separate
Those are two
expungement?
separate, yes.
Okay. For yours then, is it still an online, they have to register in advance?
They can register online or they can show up in person. No one's going to be turned away. Everyone will receive legal advice and help getting started with their process.
Okay. Has there been conversation with Frankfurt or other entities about waiving the processing fee for this?
So I believe that $50 fee is for the background check. I have been working directly with the Kentucky Department of Corrections. They will be on site and there is no fee for a background check that will happen that day.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying.
Any other questions for Ms. Brown or any concerns?
Abdul Muhammad, no questions, but just a thought, just looking through all this information and not trying to create extra work for anyone as well, but just thinking if there's some work already been done on this progress report, it doesn't make sense, Chair, that in some capacity, if we're maybe, some of us are going to be passionate. I'm listening to the conversation, and I noticed, I've heard a lot of questions around education and then economics, and I'm just wondering if it makes sense that even at our commission level, that maybe we could be brought into at least some of the communication from some of the individuals that's taken on this work already. Like, it may make sense that, like, if I got questions around economics and somebody's working on implementing something, does it make sense that maybe I have access and engage with that person that owns that project? Just to, because if we're going to get this semi-annually, 6 months from now, we'll have more information, but we're going to be meeting monthly. And so we'll need to show back up here next month to give an update on something. So that, just a suggestion.
The suggestion.
Yeah, it is. Very good.
So possibly creating subcommittees from this group.
Yes. What do you all think about that? I think to do otherwise is just kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it just, like Brother Muhammad said, it keeps us in the link, and because the updates are so far out, I mean, we constantly have questions, and it just makes sense if we can directly insert those instead of waiting 6 months, whatever.
So how do we form the subcommittees? What's your pleasure? Of interest?
Well, I think, Mr. Chair, last month we talked about potentially having subcommittees, but we needed to get into sort of hearing some of the...
From the...
Right, because we didn't yet know what we cared enough about
Right.
to get deeper into subcommittees. So I'd be hesitant to start a subcommittee now when, maybe after we hear a couple of presenters, we'll determine that, okay, there's 2 things or 3 things that we really want to delve deeper into, and then maybe have a subcommittee around that. So I don't know if we know enough yet.
It works. Well, there are certainly some components of this that are
coming up time and time again.
Well,
yeah.
they're foreign to me.
Yeah, sure.
Just because of what my background is. I mean, if someone was asking me right now, I could pick the 2, just because I'm most familiar with them. But
Sure.
there are some, and those don't necessarily always need to be the ones you need to be on. You need to kind of, so you can stretch and grow in other areas. But so if Ms. Brown, you said you were just going to continue to work with the chairs of the original commission to
Yes.
see if they were available, and so what would happen then if we come next month and no one's here?
I think there were questions around timeline, if there's any budget updates. I think there's some more logistical things within the report that we could probably get more information about.
For our next meeting, anyway.
Yeah, to have like the timeline. I think there was questions if there's current data available that maybe doesn't require a chair, so even if we don't have them, we can have some of those pieces. I think that could have helped a lot of the discussion today.
Yeah. So I think
Some of the questions.
maybe asking Mr. Lanter, who's over the Housing Advocacy, Commission for Housing Advocacy and Community Development, I think asking him to present next month
Okay.
would be,
And wasn't also a request made of you, I think, for your short-term and long-term?
yes, that,
Okay.
yes.
You'll let us know about whether there's the $100,000 that's listed for apprenticeship and summer job, if it's in fact two different $100,000.
Reporting out about the expungement clinic,
Okay.
and then any updates about Charles Young. And Commissioner Allen Bryant wanted to be here today, but she had a scheduling conflict, but she will be here next month. And that is somebody, Charles Young, and programming at Charles Young is under her department.
Okay. So we've effectively built the agenda to a certain degree for the next meeting.
I had one question, or one suggestion possibly. School district we had at PMOC where we would put red, green, or yellow in an area that we're working on. And so I know your long-term and short-term goals are what you're working on, but is there a way to categorize these in red, yellow, green, meaning it's not started, you're in the process, or it's finished? And that can help me at least wrap my mind around what work is being done to keep us updated. Because like I said, a lot of great suggestions on here. I'm very curious what is actually in play. And if you can give me a simple color code, I'm also a teacher, so I love the visuals.
Sure.
So just something from our initial meeting, we had discussed having a spreadsheet that was consolidating both questions and recommendations so that we could all have, visibility. I think that will also help when it comes time for us to report out, because that's one of our responsibilities, is to report out, progress that we've made as a commission. And then just two other things. One is, if you look on page 42, and it's the third bullet from the top, and I feel like this has been mentioned a lot, but I think this is slightly different. It says to track metrics and progress, select a screening tool to assess social determinants of health during all community outreach events and patient encounters, such as the following. So I would make a recommendation that for everything that we do that impacts the public, everything that we do that goes beyond, the city of Lexington employees, that we make sure that we have some form of screening, not just at the end or at the conclusion, but something to help screen and adjust throughout, and then also report out as things go, because, we've got 12 meetings a year, and that could, hurt our ability to effectively give advice or, be an advisory board.
Is that I don't have my full report with me today.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's recommendation 5, and
Under what
On-
section?
Here it is.
recommendation 5, strengthen county government and CHIP work group collaboration.
I got one already, if you want to say.
Page 42, third bullet from the bottom.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's why I couldn't find it. You said second from the bottom. I was looking.
Did I say second?
Did you say
I
from the
totally
bottom?
I meant third from the bottom. I thought it said third from the bottom.
Track metrics, right?
Yeah, that's it.
I'm sitting there looking at the top. I'm like, I'm on a different
Yeah,
page.
totally meant third from the bottom. Sorry about the confusion. Words are hard sometimes.
Okay. So that's something I need to talk to the Fayette County Health Department about. Where you partner, I mean, they have the community health workers, and so kind of seeing what tool they already use for their outreach. Again, this is one of those things that's not really in local government purview.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Okay.
So, just one more thing. From the things that have been discussed as far as information that we're waiting on that you'll go out and help procure for this group, is it possible for us to have a, an expectation to have email correspondence in between meetings so that, as soon as you get it, we don't have to wait until the meeting, it can just be sent to our email? Understanding what the rules and regulations are when we get emails that contain information, of course. But that way we could review it before the next meeting and possibly come in informed.
Absolutely, and I think that should go both ways. So even as far as like questions, so that I can be prepared as well.
I agree. Yep. I think if we had a spreadsheet and then we all had a link to that spreadsheet, we could enter those as well and possibly add on to those.
I put it on my note, and I put your name beside it, but I couldn't remember how to follow out that note. So I know Marshall had mentioned something that we could have a shared means of communication. Is it Google? Yes,
Google
I
Drive,
could.
yeah.
Yep.
Can we do that
Yes, we
legally?
can.
I mean, with the, okay.
I'll work with Melissa in our office to set that up and get that sent out so everyone has access.
And so from the conversation that we've had today, if you're like me, you'll get into your car and think of something else. So can we start, I was trying to figure out, I knew how to do it when I was working, but with my personal account, okay. But trying to get a group so I could send the agenda or whatever. And so if we have, can we start communicating like that? I'll try to create my own and just send out one that says hello, and you can save it. But back and forth as you think of items that for discussion, if you would, we could let it be a double-edged sword. We'll send them. Let's send them to everyone, because I think it's important if two of us know about it, all of us should know about it. So I think that's
Absolutely. And there are also currently city documents that are utilized and shared with the public from Google. So I know that it's something that we could do, but I agree with you 100%. It does need to be both ways. And, if we do have that, then we could also use it for potentially document sharing and, things of that nature. But I think it would definitely help,
in your way.
Can I make a suggestion as well in between meetings? Because depending on scheduling with prior subcommittee chairs, that may be coming, I don't want that to hold up or impede the process of this commission. All of the meetings from the prior are on YouTube
that's you just hit the nail on the head for me, because I kind of had a macro expectation today, and this is very micro. Excuse me, but I'm the new guy. So, but yeah, as far as where things sort of left off, I just wondered from viewing the prior subcommittee meetings or looking at minutes, I guess, or notes from those meetings, where did they leave off? Are they up to date? Or is there just this huge cavern between where they left off and where we need to start up? Because once again, I kind of had a macro expectation today, and this has been extremely micro. So, yeah. I'm the new guy.
All of the minutes and the video footage of those meetings are on the website. So if you type in racial justice and equality on the lexingtonky.gov site, it'll bring you to a homepage, and it has the report, the updates, it has all of the meeting minutes, everything.
What I'm saying is, I need to know clearly in terms of where it left off, because I don't want to consume all that information and it not necessarily inform me to the point where I can start to drill down.
It left off with them producing this document, that full report. In between that full report, there are 2 updates, I believe. So there's the update that Lisa gave, and then there's the last update, which I published. And so that's really kind of where this group is kind of getting started after the second update.
And just for clarity, and this is for the commission and for Mr. Chairman, am I clearly understanding that we're looking at like a Google folder, Google Doc? I just want to make sure I'm clear about what those particular platforms will be, and then making sure that I'm able to engage in those based on some things I'm experiencing right now with communications.
Yeah, Google Document, and with Google Documents you can partition things in folders to keep it more organized. So, and then we will all have links to it and permissions to access it. And so, like she said, we can put questions before we come to this, so you won't be bombarded, or if we have questions for the other groups. So it'll just be a virtual log
like
that we all have access
cloud
to.
Sharing.
Yeah.
It's the platform that was previously used by the temporary commission, so.
Yeah, I'm not saying it from a technical sense in terms of, my ability to engage in Google Forms, Google Docs, Google Folders. I'm saying it from the standpoint of all of us having access to those, because I do know there's some things you have to drill down on in terms of being able to access those things. Like, for instance, I think my particular email address, if it goes to that email address, I don't think it'll allow me to actually go in and easily access the information. So if we need to go back and maybe each of us individually, I can't speak for you guys, I can only speak for me, and I think as it stands right now, I probably would not be able to access those.
Yeah, I think probably the email address that we communicate with each other and with you would probably be the one that you would give us access to, I'm thinking, correct? Like for the Google Doc?
Yes. There was, I believe there's a previous account set up that has all the minutes and the video from the.
Right, but as far as giving all of us access to that?
Yes.
You would need to have your one specific email.
Yeah.
I guess you're the administrator, right? So then you can grant.
I mean, you just put in an email address and it says like share, and you will have permissions.
Yep, we just want to make sure we have editor on there.
Yes.
Yeah, within Google Docs, you have the ability to set up to where you can have someone as a viewer or an editor, and for us to adjust the spreadsheet. Essentially, it's just an Excel document in a Google platform. We'd all have to be granted editor rights when it's shared. Yeah.
Ms. Brown, do you have, I noticed you taking very good notes, and there's a lot of requests. Do you have administrative support for some of these requests? And is there a way to ensure that you have some of that support, especially as this group starts up? And I know you can totally do it and you're capable, but speaking from experience myself, it's nice to have that, especially when you're starting up. So I'm just curious, do you have that level of support?
I do not.
She does not. So we would like to find a way, sorry, Chair, could we find a way to make sure she has what she needs, at least with us starting up? Okay, sorry.
I think. Yeah. I think also what's important I kind of knew that fact that you said, but tell us how we can better support you, what you need from us to better support you. Like you said, getting questions ahead of time, things like that. Just let us know, because I too know how it is when you don't have that administrative support. So just let us know how we can better support you too.
Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. Since we're talking about that, I was just reading through the ordinance that was approved by the council, and then I noticed on section 2-524 on page 2 that, reports can be asked for by the mayor at any given time from us. So then on the next section, 2-2525, I noticed that there was 6 items on there that I guess the commission, we are responsible for as well. So I guess I'm making a point that maybe at the next meeting, because I know it's getting late in this one, but we probably need to have some discussions around those things and so we're not surprised if somebody asks for a report. I see something about there being an annual report, as well as the responsibilities of each one of us that may be engaged in community groups and so forth. So just wanting to make sure we have some discussions around that at some point in time soon.
And maybe that's something we can even talk about over email between now and then, so we don't have to wait all the way till next month after the discussion. But I agree with you. I think the mayor said last month that we would get an annual, we'll be responsible for an annual report through Ms. Brown. She told us not to sort of worry too much about that, but if there's anything else that we're responsible, we want to make sure that we're being proactive about it.
Oh, I guess it wasn't that important, but I was just speaking to I was trying to think out loud about the assistance that you may need, and that might vary based on the specific recommendation that you are addressing right then. So that would not be a one-size-fits-all, and could be a conversation that would need to be held various times. That's what I'm thinking. But I do think, as opposed for all of us, our duties and powers, we need to be at the forefront, I guess, to help guide us in this work. I think that is very important. With you all, I'm terrible with names, so what the commission over here to my right said. So, Abdul Muhammad, thank you, sir. See. What else do we have?
I had some thoughts about how to maybe set that spreadsheet up, so I was thinking maybe we could collaborate on that. And, that way it could be categorized so that it will help pair with the documents that we're utilizing to give that information. And then also the links that are within the website, I can send out a link to where those reside, because, I think our website, the City of Lexington website is very, very user-friendly. But I also know there's a lot of information there, so we can send that link out just to shortcut the process if we want to review some of the previous recorded sessions.
Anything else? Well, I think through this like I've said earlier, through this conversation, we've developed our agenda for the next month. We will be sure to send out notifications and reminders and calendar invites earlier than we did this time.
I have sent out a calendar invite that is a monthly recurring invite, so do not decline it. Accept it.
That was this most recent one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just accepted
So this
it.
should be on your calendar for the first Wednesday of every month.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
I just want to reiterate what Ms. Scully and a couple other people said. We really appreciate you, and thank you for the work that you're doing and what you're putting in, because what you're doing is helping to make us better, and hopefully we will be able to support you and continue on doing the great work. So like Mr. Adair said, I know these questions sometimes can feel, overwhelming, but, I think I can speak for everybody. We really appreciate you because you are helping to guide us too. So, thank you.
Absolutely. I appreciate all of you because I have looked at this report so many times at home, and I'm like, I don't even know where to begin until I finally realized that it was this conversation that was going to have to start guiding where we go from here on out. And just kind of so I closed this binder and felt a little sense of peace, and so I feel much better about it now because it's not a lot of pages, but it's a whole lot. There's a lot. There's a lot in here, and so yes, I thank you. I thank you all. I thank all of you for your help and your work and the synergy, because this is not my group. This is our group and yours. All right. Anything else? Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Make a motion to adjourn.
It's been moved by Ms. Scully and seconded by Mr. Johnson. Any question? None? All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.